The cool thing about being in Croatia is, I've been to Zagreb many, many, many times. I've done, we've done small events here. I've participated in large conferences here. It's a very small community, actually. Everyone knows everyone, so I don't need to introduce everyone, because you guys probably all know them. So why don't you guys all stand on one side, and I'll kind of stand on the other one. So, if you look at what's going on in Croatia, the first time that I came to Zagreb for startups was about 4 years ago now, I remember. And, a simple question to you guys. Like, Ivan, let's start with you. What has changed in 4 years? And for that, you don't need a mic, by the way. It's over here. It's over here. Sorry. Okay. You can hold this one.
What's changed? So, well, the founders are more experienced, definitely. So people know what's actually going on, just in terms of not just the Croatian community, but like the broad startup world. So they know what's going on. Well, there's two things. One, you have people that know their shit, really actually working on their startup. So a lot of experienced people in the beginning were skeptical of the whole startup world. Now they're working on it. On the other hand, you have a number of fakers, right? People that think they know what they're doing, but they're not. So I think there's good development in terms of just like more people getting involved in the startup industry.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Sergeant, if we move on to you, you're not someone who's been involved with in the whole startup hype very much, but you've been doing all kinds of innovation projects, investment projects for the last, 15 or so years. In terms of finance, how's the field changing here in Croatia?
Well, yeah, I've been on the sidelines of the whole start. I remember I've been to the first Seed Camp event, and what really significantly changed is the availability of capital. Now, back then, it was, if you started a company, there was absolutely no way almost no way to get funded in Croatia, or in the region indeed. RSG was one of the pioneers in that regard, but that was not nearly enough. So basically, in my opinion, what was a real game changer was what Bulgarian mafia did with the Jeremy instrument, launch of N11. So that was the event that really changed the game for the startups here. I mean, we still see that there's traditionally in Croatia or in the region, there's a lack of risk capital. Now, there are many reasons for that, but if you were starting a company, banks would not give you loans. High net worths who would be ideal angel investors were very scarce. There's just a couple of people who had that capability. And there were no institutional investors present. So what really changed from back then to now is more readily available capital. And from what we're seeing, right, that's going to change even more significantly in the future.
Right. One of those people that is actually investing is Mihail here, who is part of Croatian Angel Network. How's the availability of interesting startups to invest in? Has it become better since we met 4 years ago?
Yes, I think it's becoming better day and day. As Srđan said, Bulgarian mafia helped us with some investments. Also, some people saw that we are working as a crane. Then we started to work with startups in our ZIP. And in some other towns, things came to some situations that now you have some people working in Osijek with very good startups as Farmeron and guys from Shoutemen, also with office there. You have people working in Rijeka, and also we are just waiting for Split to become more appropriate.
Yeah. You have a mic over there. You've been doing this for a couple of years. You've almost, I think, fully invested your first fund.
Yeah,
here.
it's fully invested.
It's fully invested already. You have, I know, at least one investment in Croatia. Two already. So how do you look at it? Like, are you hopeful? Are you pessimistic?
No, of course not. If I was pessimistic, then I wouldn't raise my next fund, actually.
When can we expect it?
Sorry?
When is it coming up?
I've told you that you're not allowed to ask me this question. Okay, we'll sort this over the lunch. No, actually, the startup here, as it may, sound a little bit weird, but it's much better here than in Slovenia. We see a number of startups in Slovenia, maybe even bigger number than in Croatia, but I think that it's this hype that we are seeing in Slovenia is, I don't want to go to the startup events where all the startups are coming there with nice big cars, and you get the feeling that, most of the startup guys are, just kids of some parents that, have some family businesses, and they want them to, to spend some of their heavily earned money.
But
so
maybe if I pose the question differently, what would you like to see more of in terms of deal flow, in terms of serious founders? What kind of qualities do you think should be? You want to see more?
The quality has to pick up, but the quality will pick up when the first guys that are now incubating Techstars and other accelerators will come back and do their part of the job. We've seen a couple of such things in our cases in Slovenia. We've got the guys from Outfit 7, we've got Celtro, we've got Zemanta guys who came back and so on. But it just takes time. It cannot be done in 5 years. It's gonna take probably in the next 5 or even more years before the real. We all hope, of course, that the first real exit will happen sooner. But it's not just one exit that brings everything together. You have to have a couple of them.
Right. Interesting. Maybe a question to all of you guys, and anyone who feels like answering, can grab the mic. Obviously these countries are really small. Croatia, Slovenia, Serbia is not very big either. Do you guys think Zagreb could become a hub, a regional hub for these, or are the tensions too deep, the divides too deep? How's that developing?
I've had the pleasure actually of meeting. Well, one of the problems with that question, unfortunately, is that these guys probably don't know anyone from like the Serbian startup ecosystem. And I just got an email that in 4 weeks there's going to be a big conference in Slovenia, Podium, their main startup conference. And they asked me what they asked me last year, and that's, let's bring some Croatian startups to this conference. There's going to be investors and people that know their stuff. Again, what happens is no one wants to travel to Maribor, which is
2 hours, right?
yeah,
From here?
not really
even.
that far.
Not
it's
even.
1 hour, yeah.
Yeah, it's depending on
good.
how you drive, Yura. So it honestly, like Zagreb or Belgrade or whatever, yeah, these cities can become hubs. The issue is just that the people in the startup communities need to understand that the fact that once we were one country and the fact that we do understand each other just on a lingual basis and on a cultural basis is one big advantage.
Yeah.
And these guys should be going to Belgrade or to Ljubljana, meeting startups and talking amongst themselves. Not, it's like the issue with, we have free editions of Netokracija, right? We have Netokracija Serbia because the Serbian startup community likes to read Netokracija Serbia. Some of them read Croatia, but they prefer Serbia. It's the same with Slovenia. It's not just a language barrier, it's a way of thinking.
Interesting. Any other input or?
The markets are very fragmented here. That's correct. But on the other hand, the fund that we are putting together now will probably be, the biggest initiative, which will cover the whole region under one umbrella. It will have a couple of offices. That's correct. But it's going to be one fund, not 5 different funds for 5 different countries, and also beneficiary countries are included with their budgets. So, which
So
I
have
think
to invest in that many, let's say, Croatian, and that many Serbian, Macedonian?
No, there are no exact splits between. It's just we are going to be market-oriented funds. So, if the best pipeline comes out of Croatia, we'll probably invest more in Croatia, which is, realistically very possible. But we can also invest in Albania, part of our funds.
Interesting. Michael, question to you. It's well known that for a startup community to function well, you need an active angel community. Now, you've been an angel. If I remember correctly, you made your first exits with non-IT businesses. If I recall that correctly, I'm not sure about that. How do you see? It's clear that in a country like Croatia, most money is still being made with cement, with hotels, with that kind of stuff. How do you guys actually attract people with that kind of backgrounds to angel investing?
It's not very easy. This is why the guys are there from Crane. We are trying now to put Crane on a more maybe higher level, and we are talking to a lot of the entrepreneurs. We have a change now. Dauren is president after I was there for 6 years, so I got a little tired of that. So we are trying to develop Crane as one investment vehicle. We would like to have more business angels networks, but it's not very easy to attract people to invest in IT companies. We need one big success, what you said. When they see one big success, when somebody comes and say, I don't know, Farmer made $300 million, then you'll see.
Yeah. Well, you have a couple of companies that that may have not exited yet, like Farmeron, like Bellabeat, like Remats, but that's should be pretty convincing. Interesting. Serjan, I know that you know the Croatian finance and public finance scene very well. Can you give us an idea of what kind of funding opportunities are coming up that you're aware of, or that is there anything in the pipeline?
Well, yeah. In addition to a long-awaited RSG instrument funded by Western Balkans Initiative, there's also there's been announcements of Hamag Bicro's fund, which would target specifically Croatia. So if you think that a couple of years ago we didn't have anything, then we had roughly 21 million euros available for seed funding in the region from Bulgaria. And then there's going to be at least twice as much capital available for the region, and specifically, even more for Croatia. So, we are looking at a period where, we're at this moment, we are living in a time when there's never been more capital available, and that's going to improve even more in the next couple of months. So it's a couple of years ago. I think I had a discussion with Sasha Cvetovic, who I think said that he does not believe that there's 5 million euro worth of, or even 5 million kunas worth of deal flow. We had this discussion maybe a year ago, year and a half ago, 2 years ago. But you see things changing when capital becomes available. All of a sudden, this stimulates the deal flow, and then there's so many new opportunities to invest in. How good they are or how bad they are. That's I think is at the moment beside the point, because the quantity will bring out quality, and I'm sure that Ivan will agree that. A couple of years back, if you were a frequent visitor of startup events, you would, that would be recycling of same faces. You would see the same people pitching the same businesses, and I was quite surprised. In the last maybe 6 months, there's been so many more new faces, so many more new businesses coming. So I think we're looking at the time for if you're talking about IT startups, we're looking about a very, very good time. Now, what the next challenge is going to be is follow-on stages, the exit infrastructure. Now that's something that's the way.
So you're nodding like no. Interesting. Yeah, guys, maybe a last question, and maybe different answers from different people here. In 5 years, how should it look like, according to you? Maybe start with Ivan. This is all recorded on video, right? So in 5 years from now, we'll be posting that kind of videos.
Screw the journalists first.
See?
5 years. In 5 years, honestly, I know that there's going to be one thing, and I'm 100% sure of that, and that's that the first generation of tech founders is going to come back as investors, and then stuff's going to happen. I've told Viktor Marotnic from Shoutem this numerous times, when he exits, and he will come back, and he starts investing because he's had that experience of creating that kind of tech company, then we're going to see stuff move faster and faster. It's happening in other ecosystems, and it's important for this one.
Interesting. That's actually an interesting thing, because, for instance, in Bulgaria, we had this massive exit by Teller a couple months ago. for $262 million. And right now, it's kind of, everyone's looking around and trying to see, okay, what will trickle down to the ecosystem? I mean, for now, the whole senior management team is locked down in Progress Software, the company that bought them. So hopefully, at some point, but it's not happening yet. So I'm just warning you, Surgeon.
Well, in my opinion, the biggest, and what I would like to see in 5 years' time is if you would walk into maybe this exact classroom, and it would be full of students from FER, and you would ask, how many of you consider starting a business, as opposed to, working for HEP or working for Ericsson, steady job. And hopefully in 5 years' time, you will have like half of the room lift their hand and say, I want to start my own business. Nowadays, if you, I mean, okay, FER is a lot of engineers, not so risk prone, but if you, I had a friend tell me an anecdote when he went in Osijek in auditorium much like this one. And there was a room full of business students, and he, asked, how many of you are considering starting your own business? There was like a show of 5-10 hands out of the room of 300. So hopefully in 5 years' time, we'll have much more success stories. We'll have capital that's readily available, so you will have more people willing to, become entrepreneurs. Because 5 years back, only madmen would become entrepreneurs, because there was no, the chances of succeeding and getting funded were minuscule.
Mihail, 5 years from now, Zip, Crane?
I would agree with Ivan. I expect situation that founders come back and invest their money. We saw that now, and these are maybe the best startups. We can see that with our friend Damir Sabol with Photomat. When you see somebody who knows what he's doing, who had an exit, somebody who has some money, then he received a state grant, then he invested the money, he picked very good people from this faculty, and now they are doing very, very well. So it's the next step. I agree with Ivan. We will be working on a new projects and on a new things, but until we see this big home run exit, it's very hard to persuade people to become investors. And we need more investors. Everybody who comes from the United States here, he just says, write more checks and just try.
Right. And what's your wish list for 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I wish I'll raise the next fund.
Okay.
Because this one that I'm raising now will be fully invested. So if everything goes by plan, it's going to be a much less painful process than with this one.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, before lunch, we have time for one articulated question. Anyone wants to ask something? If you guys will be doing startups here, you'll probably have to do with those guys here at one point or another. No one? Everything? Burton. Yeah, if you could just speak up, I'll repeat the question. Or, yeah, let me give you the mic.
So this is a change I would like to see. Right now, the stock ownership in startups is concentrated really just with founders and investors, which actually hurts the ecosystem because you have very few other people, senior managers, employees, actually benefiting from these sales. What do you see as the possibility for changing the legal regime or attitude towards stock options among investors and founders so that more employees are actually owning equity, so that they also make money on these exits, and you have more than just a few people becoming millionaires and making money who then become future investors and entrepreneurs?
I would just say I'm a very big fan of crowdfunding, and I believe in that. We made some campaigns here last year, and I think crowdfunding is a very important element. It's growing by billions, and I see that as your future buyers investing in your company, or very, very large group of people investing through crowd investing in your startup.
Well, I mean, in terms of regulation, I think that the local regulation in at least the Slovenia and Croatia is and will be harmonized with the EU regulation. So the question regulation is a larger question. If EU fixes it, I'm sure that we will adopt it quite soon. The other question is whether and that was the question that I had when I was watching your presentation is how liquid would those stock options be in order to be able to materialize, if you will, that equity that you got in a company. That equity needs to be liquid, and that means that the company needs to be listed on a stock exchange. Now, that is a question of whether there will be an infrastructure for these companies to get listed, maybe locally. I mean, Zagreb Stock Exchange did not. We had one IPO a couple of months ago, and that broke the dry spell of a couple of years, and that's we really didn't have any company go through the entire route of getting funded on the ground level and then exiting on the IPO level. So getting maybe grouping a couple of exchanges, local exchanges in one larger regional exchange, or creating a specific listing or regulated market that would be specifically focused on tech companies regionally. So these are but we need infrastructure for that.
In terms of founders giving away stock options to employees, I've been talking to a number of founders, both the ones that we consider successful and the new ones, and the opinion among them is that their employees in a lot of cases don't see stock options as something they want, right? And that they're far more motivated by bonuses or other ways that they see that are short term, basically. And honestly, just from like a media guy kind of a perspective, I think the answer is simple. When one of the startups that's now popular exits, and some of their employees have benefit from that and make some money, and we write it on Etocratia and people see that and they say, whoa, that's actually a good option, then the employees will see, okay, that's an option for me, and then the founders, when they ask, will get a yes. So it's kind of simple.
I would just say that out of our 10 portfolio companies, we've got this, the stock option plans on most of them, but probably only when the first good cars will be on the roads, bought with the exits of sold by bought by the founders that sold their shares out of these stock option plans. Only then, the general public will figure out, that you can make some money out of, even if you're not the founder or co-founder of the company.
Yeah. One of the negative things that can happen, I've seen this already happen in Bulgaria, is that the politicians who are not used to the tech startups at all, when they see exits like Teleworks, they go like, okay, where do we come in here? So be careful of that. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for this. Please a round of applause for my panelists.